Hola, everybody. So I had promised an update, or I had, said I was going to do an update last night over on X, and I didn't get around to it because I ended up going out and getting some drinks. And so the idea was to wake up nice and fresh and do today's episode analyzing the JFK files, which have finally come out in earnest. Not the small batch of JFK stuff from years ago, but the good stuff. So I wanted to get into that and also talk a little bit about how AI could eventually lead to effective immortality. So those are today's topics. And what's so weird is I woke up nice and well rested, feeling very organized mentally. And within minutes of waking up, I hear this chainsaw. It sounds like it's literally right outside of my door. And I live in a high rise, luxury high rise. And it sounds like it's right outside of my door. There hasn't been construction in my building in months. It's a new building that's totally finished. No reason there would be construction anywhere in the building. Uh, so I walk outside, and the utility closet that's between me and the other unit, so it's closer to me than any other units in the building, right? Some random utility closet. There are guys with hard hats, random dudes with hard hats chainsawing away in this like small utility closet that looks to have nothing in there aside from a concrete floor. And they're just chainsawing and making as much noise as possible. And I couldn't even get past to the elevator. And so I asked them, I said, am I trapped? Like, you're not talking to me, you're not explaining what you're doing, and you're not letting me go to the elevator. You're actually like, impeding my movement in my building. It was very bizarre. So I woke up again to this chainsaw. And I think, obviously I can't record a podcast when there's a chainsaw going. And then I speak to the front office. I speak to the front desk downstairs. They have no knowledge of any construction. They don't know who these people are. They don't know what they're working on because, again, it's a finished building. There's no problems with the utilities. And they're like, yeah, we don't know. We don't know, Seaman. We don't know exactly what you're talking about. But luckily, I recorded it. So as a journalist and as a researcher, when you record something and when you have the receipts, so to speak, it's totally a different experience than when you're just claiming something. Because if you just claim, oh, a random construction crew woke me up this morning, prevented me from doing my podcast when I wanted to do it, wouldn't let me even go to the elevator. Very kind of freaky experience. But since I have the video of it, here you go. Here's what I woke up to. Listen to this. Right outside of my building, right? So then like I said, I complain to the front office. I go for a little walk outside. I come back up here, that construction crew is gone. All their garbage and stuff that was around them completely gone, like they were never here. And if not for that video I just played the audio of, people would think I was making this up. Weird folks. I'm not saying that's, leftoids trying to slow down my podcast roll now that we're getting huge download numbers. I'm not saying that at all. Just super weird. And it reminds me of years ago, back when I had the channel. I was doing live streams from a really remote cabin for a little while. I guess I bugged out a little bit. This was in 2017, if I remember correctly. And we were diving deep into those Podesta emails and how globalists are allegedly human traffickers and all this stuff. We were diving deep on the live streams, and some of the commenters were sharing interesting analysis and information that I hadn't even thought of. And right in the middle of my live stream, I look out the window. Again, this remote cabin I had rented in Estes Park, Colorado. Usually the only things you see are random elk. There's a lot of elk out there. You'll see elk or you'll see the occasional bear, but you don't see a lot of other people unless you go into the main like town area, which is, small little main street in the mountains. But yeah, so this super secluded cabin, I could not have thought of a more remote place in Colorado in which to record for a few days. And I'm doing this live stream and I'm looking out the window, and the utility company is working on the telephone pole right in front of my cabin. And so I talked to the rental office, and say, hey, is there a problem with the phone lines or something? They're working on the phone lines right in front of my cabin. Nope. Phones are great. Internet's great. Not sure what you're talking about, Seaman. I have no idea what you're talking about. And again, I'm watching this crew climb up the telephone pole in front of my cabin like monkeys, and they're working on the phone lines. And so anyway, that today reminds me of that experience years ago where it's like, what do you make of this? I don't think I'm that important. I don't think I'm being singled out. But at the same time, it's like stuff like that makes it impossible to do your job. Obviously, when I wake up and there are chainsaws going literally right outside of my unit, it makes it very hard to record something with high quality, audio. And speaking of high quality audio, yesterday's or the day before yesterday, that rant, I'm glad you guys appreciated it. I just wish I had recorded it from a better microphone because right now I'm recording from the best there is, so it should sound all right. But the other day I just, went off on a tangent, and I'm glad it came out well. Got a lot of positive feedback. Every once in a while you have to let that out. I stand behind every word of that episode. And I don't understand why other people aren't angrier, right? This USAID stuff is outrageous. So it seems like Trump in term 2 decided to cut the deep state at the knees right away. We didn't realize that USAID was like the air duct, the Death Star air duct. The one vulnerability is that all these shills in the media and all these weird lobbying groups that take in hundreds of millions of dollars to consult illegal immigrants about how to skirt the system, how to buck the system, how to live here legally. So all that money was coming from USAID, and you shut off the faucet, and suddenly you have people who are motivated to harm us and motivated to, collapse our country with infinity migration and nonstop propaganda. The media outlets that are funded by USAID are outright leftist propaganda. They're not sifters of fact and truth, propaganda outlets. And so you see, without the resources, they still want to harm us, but they don't have the means. These idiots who are writing for these left-wing blogs that are somehow treated as reputable news outlets, these people don't work for free. You got to pay them. And so absolutely bizarre, though. But the other big thing I want to talk about before we get into the JFK files, and I'll give you my analysis of that. The other thing that I wanted to mention on the show is Trump really came through for us, for the crypto and Bitcoin folk out there. He truly came through, and Trump doesn't always do that. Sometimes he says he's going to do something and then he does the opposite. There's no controlling Trump. You can't stump the Trump. But he remembered, I guess, all the loyalty that otherwise, kind of progressive, lefty crypto people, they really threw their support behind him. And that's part of why he won the election, is all these big brains in Silicon Valley said, nope, this is our guy. He's not the, Nazi that the left keeps saying. He's the only one who's going to advance cryptocurrency. He's the only one who's not going to fuck up AI and hand the crown to China by making it too hard to experiment with AI here in the US. So anyway, he really came through for that community of people. And I want to play part of the pre-recorded message from the Oval Office that he delivered the other day at the Bitcoin conference. So I'm just going to play part of the video clip. And again, this is a video that he made in the Oval Office, which was delivered before the Digital Asset Summit in New York. Here we go.
Digital Asset Summit, bringing together many of the world's top leaders in crypto for a conversation led by our White House AI and crypto czar, David Sachs, who's a fantastic and very brilliant guy. That same week, I signed an order creating the brand new strategic Bitcoin reserve and a U.S. digital asset stockpile, which will allow the federal government to maximize the value of its holdings instead of foolishly selling them for a fraction of their long-term value, which is exactly what Biden did. He got a fraction of their value. We're ending the last administration's regulatory war on crypto and Bitcoin, and that includes stopping the lawless Operation Choke Point 2.0. Operation Choke Point went beyond regulation, and I mean far beyond. It was a form of lawfare through government weaponization. Frankly, it was a disgrace. But as of January 20th, 2025, all of that is over. I've also called on Congress to pass landmark legislation creating simple, common sense rules for stablecoins and market structure. With the right legal framework, institutions large and small will be liberated to invest, innovate, and take part in one of the most exciting technological revolutions in modern history. It's so big, it's, I think, as big as you can get. Pioneers like you will be able to improve our banking and payment system and promote greater privacy, safety, security, and wealth for American consumers and businesses alike. You will unleash an explosion of economic growth, and with the dollar backed stablecoins, you'll help expand the dominance of the US dollar. And many, many years to come, it'll be at the top, and that's where we want to keep it. We only want to keep it at the top, always. I can already see that the energy and passion of the crypto community is the kind of spirit that built our country, and it is exciting to watch as you invent the future of finance. And right here, it's going to be right here in the USA, the good old USA. Together, we will make America the undisputed Bitcoin superpower and the crypto capital of the world. Thank
There you go. There you have it. I love it. I love this new Trump is just total reformer, you know? No going halfway, just absolute reformer. Telling us that we're like the people who built this country. What a reversal of rhetoric from the previous administration. You're not using crypto, are you? All good, all good. You're not using crypto though, are you? Treating it like you're running a fucking meth lab if you accept Bitcoin payments through your YouTube channel. What a night and day difference. Good riddance to Biden and old Podesta. Podesta robbing our nation's money, claiming it's for climate change. They audit us if you don't account for more than $900 in Venmo or PayPal tips. This guy was pulling billions of dollars out of the Treasury with close to no oversight to protect the planet. Yeah, whoever those people were hammering away in my utility closet outside of my high-rise luxury condo this morning that the front desk can't account for. Pretty weird. Whoever those folks were, you can't slow down what's ahead. You can't slow down what's coming. Crypto is here to stay. You just heard the President of the United States say it. And when I look back at my past, I'm amazed that Bitcoin came in, that we stayed with this for so long, and so many of you got into it, and it actually came in. It actually is the future of the world. And here these twisted globalists focused on everything aside from actually making us a more united globe. A shared currency. That was the failed ambition of the European Union 25 years ago, was if you give everybody the same currency, they're not going to want to fight each other. It doesn't really work in practice, but good idea, I guess, right? But here, if the whole world uses one currency, think about the efficiency savings. That when you go on vacation, instead of some bank nickel and diming you, you can just use the same currency that you used at home. And you think about how that brings cultures together. Because we all want to sell to each other. We all want to make good products and ship it somewhere else and have money come back to us. And Bitcoin allows that process to happen in a way that was literally impossible beforehand. The banking system was so siloed that you couldn't really send easily large amounts or small amounts of money to other countries and have it be settled the same day, much less than 10 minutes, which is the average confirmation time for a Bitcoin transaction. So it really did solve a problem that was right there waiting to be solved by someone or something. And so the JFK files, just like Trump, calling out Operation Choke Point 2.0, where Treasury officials and FDIC officials kind of off the books would say to banks, hey, don't work with crypto. We're going to fuck you over with so much scrutiny if you work with crypto. So just don't do it. And as a result, a lot of the growth in crypto during the Biden administration sadly happened in other countries. It could have happened here, and hopefully it's not too late for Americans to have, a piece of this pie. But night and day difference. And so just like that, like Trump ending this unfair kind of shadow policy. We don't like shadow policies. If it's the law that you can't store crypto at a bank, then make it the law. Don't send little notes to banks and try to intimidate them. So that's what Operation Choke Point 2.0 was. Elizabeth Warren and her retarded anti-crypto army using the levers of power to slow down a new technology that threatens her backers, the big banks. So the JFK files revealed that it was most likely a faction of the CIA that killed JFK. So there you have it. That's what the documents show. And some people initially went off on I gave myself a few days to sit with the JFK files and to read other people's, takeaways before doing this episode, because some people right away said, "Oh, it was Israel. It was Israel that did it," because Israel is mentioned in some of these documents that were released. And kudos to the internet, because when these files came out, people immediately did a scan of all the pages, turned them into text versus PDF files. And then they fed it into a LLM. They fed it into an AI so that it's all searchable. You can search, what page is this on? And it's all been, organized by AI. Absolutely brilliant how far we've come as an internet, But yeah, so when people sifted through this stuff, it seems like the internal documents show that some faction at the CIA decided JFK was no longer trustworthy and just decided to get rid of him. And then the references to Israel are more that, at least what I've seen, it's that they're citing the Israeli intelligence service, as it's referred to in those documents from the 60s. Citing the Israeli intelligence service, or Mossad, is one of their sources, right? One of the sources that came to the conclusion that part of the CIA itself offed Kennedy were people at the Mossad who were watching this and going, wow, it seems like the CIA offed one of their own. And then you have documents where they're saying, make sure you redact all references to the Israeli intelligence service. And so some people who just wanted to draw the conclusion that JFK was killed by Israel, they used that to, do some YouTube videos that got a lot of hits. But it doesn't seem to be the truth. And for sure, I'd be the first to point fingers at Israel if the documents said that. But again, the ones that I've seen, it seems like they're using the Israeli intelligence service as one of the secondary sources to say that, yes, it was part of the CIA that offed our president, President Kennedy. Which makes you wonder, what purpose does the CIA serve? This unelected bureaucracy paid for by the taxpayer. And these people think they're so powerful that they can kill a president when he no longer answers to them, when the president's the one that we elect, not the people at the CIA. And the executive branch power is vested in the president. That's our law. That's the Constitution. The executive branch powers are vested in the office of the presidency, not vested in the office of random pot-bellied pizza heads in Virginia working at the CIA. And so even decades later, this presents a wild constitutional crisis. Who's in charge of our country? Again, if a bunch of pizza heads and a bunch of kind of ugly fat chicks in Virginia can decide when it's time to kill a president, then we don't have a constitutional system. We have something very close to an unelected dictatorship. But hey, other people smarter than me will probably dig into that one further. But that was the conclusion that seems to have surfaced, is a faction at the CIA did not like JFK's handling of certain things and just decided to get rid of him. Just soulless pizza heads. So yeah, that's really it. I appreciate all the emails and all the support and feedback. And we see obviously that the numbers are growing. We're starting to see that uplift. And the 20 or 50 bucks or whatever that you would tip me in the past, and instead keep your money. Please just tell one or two people who also like to listen to podcasts. Show them that the show is over here on YouTube and on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Just bring more listeners over to the show. Because I really don't need your money or anything like that. I just like the fact that we're doing well. And we're going to keep pushing. And it's so key that we won. If we had lost, I would not be doing this show right now. And we're already seeing some AstroTurf comments over on YouTube. And I think we're doing a pretty good job of muting them when we see that they're out of control. But these are not people who disagree with me. This is AstroTurfing. Big paragraphs where it's like, I didn't realize you were a fascist like Musk. Time for us to hurt you too. Wow. I mean, that's not a real person as far as I can tell. It's like some, network of commenters trying to silence those of us talking about the USAID stuff. And again, Musk is not doing a good job of outing how corrupt this stuff is. There should be a viral video, and it should be well produced and no more than like 4 or 5 minutes. And it should get 100 million views. It should just show the most outrageous stuff that has been canceled so far. And show, again, the hundreds of millions of dollars that are flowing to NGO related, to media related NGOs, right? In other words, the government is sending money to a non-government organization, and they write checks to a bunch of journalists, and those journalists parrot exactly what the government once said. And they get around it again because it flowed through an NGO first. But it seems like a scam to a lot of people who are observing this. Absolute fucking scam that the government goes, oh no, we can't spend money on that. We can't spend money on propaganda. That would be unconstitutional. Here, let's write $100 million check to Media Strategies of Europe or whatever. And they can write the check to the journalists who will then say, word for word, what we once said. And speaking of word for word, the other day it came out like 50 members of Congress all tweeted the same thing within minutes of each other. And it was word for word the same thing. So it makes you wonder, is like Alex Soros or somebody just sitting there on TweetDeck with backdoor control of these Congress critters' social media? Like, what are the odds that they would all say the exact same fucking thing, word for word, within minutes of each other? Well, the odds are zero, unless they're telepathic, and these people don't strike me as big brainers. I don't think they exhibit any signs of telepathy. Someone's running a rigged show, and if Trump hadn't won, and if Musk hadn't shut down the USAID funding within days of the election, we would not be having this conversation. So thank you guys so much.